Chapter. To their surprise, the foreign soldiers, a black man, began to emit a faint glow. The light lasted only a moment before fading, leaving him looking as normal as before. That's the name of the mercenary captain from the movie. This scenario is classified as a localized horror movie. The plot is confined to the laboratory, and the Lord God imposes a restriction. You cannot move more than 100 meters away from Matthew Addison. If you try, let's just say you'll be gone in a flash. When he dies, the restriction transfers to another key character, and so on. We're chained to the plot, and have no choice but to survive within its boundaries. Zhang Jia asked, "What exactly is the Lord God? You keep mentioning it." The Lord God is the entity that controls our entry into this endless loop of horror movies. It assigns us reward points and manages the exchanges. It appears as a sphere of light, but I have no idea what it actually is. He shrugged dismissively. The bespectacled girl nodded thoughtfully. One last question. What does the countdown on the watch represent? That's the minimum time you need to survive in this horror movie. Once the time runs out, you'll be transported back to the Lord God to claim your rewards and face the next movie, the youth explained, taking another drag from his cigarette. At that moment, the train began to slow down. The black-haired youth quickly finished his cigarette and drew his desert eagle from his coat. All right, the plot starts now. From this point on, the characters in the movie can hear us. Remember, every word you say about our situation will cost you 10 points. If your points go negative, they'll be deducted from your next rewards. Newbies, good luck surviving. With that, he stood up, his gun ready, as the train came to a halt. The scenario was officially underway. The train gradually slowed to a stop. The foreign mercenaries, gripping their guns tightly, cautiously stepped outside. The black-haired youth swaggered out first, followed by the bespectacled girl, who glanced at Zhang Jia and the others before exiting as well. Watching the mercenary leader, Matthew Addison, move away, Zhang Jia and the rest quickly followed. Outside the train was a station platform. Zhang Jia recalled the resident evil movies scenes and identified this as the entrance to the Hive, the underground research facility. The group moved along the platform, climbing upward until they reached a massive steel door blocking their path. The door bore special symbols indicating the facility's affiliation with the Umbrella Corporation and the dangers within. Staying close behind the mercenaries, Zhang Jia and the others stopped as a stunning woman in a red dress with a high slit suddenly asked Matthew Addison, "Who are you? And what is happening here?" Matthew turned to her while signaling his team to begin setting up equipment to crack the door. Turning back to the woman, he explained, "We're contracted by the Umbrella Corporation, as are you. This door leads to the Hive. You're listed as the security officer for this entrance, which is why we brought you along." Zhang Jia recognized this moment. It was when the protagonist, Alice, began questioning the situation. Although he had seen the movie and knew the truth, witnessing the scene firsthand left him disoriented by its realism. Alice appeared confused as she gently touched the wedding ring on her finger and murmured, "Then, what is this?" Matthew nodded. "You're not married. That's just a cover. It's also your identification as the Hive's security officer." "And what is the Hive?" The question came not from Alice, but from another man. Someone Zhang Jia recognized as Ryan, the industrial spy whose attempted theft of the Tivris set off the chain of events. He was also the male lead of Resident Evil. Matthew gestured to another mercenary. "Show them." The mercenary nodded and began typing rapidly on a laptop. Within moments, an image appeared on the screen. "This is the entrance to the Hive," Matthew explained. "The Hive is located deep beneath Raccoon City. This building," he pointed to a structure on the screen, "is where we found you. From there, we took the underground train to the Hive's entrance, where we are now." The screen displayed various scenes until it settled on a structure resembling a beehive. This is the Hive, a secret underground research facility owned and managed by the Umbrella Corporation. The Hive houses 500 scientists and staff members who conduct vital research for the corporation. Of course, even we don't know the specifics of these projects. This heat map shows our current location at the very top of the Hive. As Matthew spoke, the laptop screen displayed a thermal image marking their position at the platform. Zhang Jia knew this area was currently safe, but it would soon transform into a death trap. And who are they? Alice suddenly pointed to Zhang Jia and the others. Zhang Jia and his group were stunned. They had assumed they existed outside the movie's reality. In their minds, the horror movie was merely a backdrop, with no interaction between them and the characters. They only needed to evade the monsters. Yet here was the protagonist addressing them directly. Matthew responded, "They're also part of the security team. Their profiles are registered with the company. But I have to question if corporate made a mistake. Apart from that Asian man, who seems like a competent soldier, the rest of them are just ordinary civilians." The realization struck Zhang Jia's group like a thunderbolt. This must be the identity the Lord God had assigned them in this world. Ryan asked, "Then why have I lost my memory? I can't recall anything about my past." Matthew Addison explained, The Hive has its own defense systems, controlled by the central computer, the Red Queen. When the Hive detects an attack, the computer releases a neurotoxin. It renders people unconscious for about 4 hours, and when they wake, they suffer various side effects, one of which is memory loss. Ryan, the industrial spy, asked, "Memory loss? How long does it last?" Matthew shook his head. "It depends on the individual. It could be an hour, a day, or even a week." Another man, not part of the mercenary team, suddenly spoke up. "Are you saying the Hive was attacked? Are there terrorists inside?" Matthew looked at him, his expression grim. "It might be worse than that." Zhang Za recognized this man, Matt, the civilian who had come to find his sister, a senior researcher in the Hive. Matt's sister had discovered Umbrella Corporation's research on the T-virus and tried to alert the government about its dangers. Unfortunately, before she could act, Ryan had stolen the virus and accidentally released it, infecting her. She had subsequently turned into a zombie. Zhang Za silently thanked his previous self for spending his dull days watching countless sci-fi and horror movies. Knowing the plot and the roles of the key characters drastically improved his odds of survival. The protagonist immunity trope where main characters always survive was a reassuring constant across both films and novels. At that moment, a voice called out from the steel door above. A female mercenary with long hair announced, "Commander, we've breached the door. We can enter now." Matthew Addison nodded to the group before sighing as he turned to lead the mercenaries toward the door. The massive steel door gradually opened under computer control, revealing pitch-black darkness beyond. Matthew instructed one of his team, JD. The mercenary nodded and equipped a pair of night vision goggles. After a moment's hesitation, Matthew turned to the black-haired youth, Zhang Ji. Without a word, Zhang Ji grabbed his Desert Eagle and strode confidently into the darkness. Zhang Jia observed Zhang Ji closely, suspecting he was another player familiar with the movie's plot. In Resident Evil, as long as the Red Queen remained active, the area was relatively safe for about 3 hours. However, once the computer was deactivated, the facility would become overrun with zombies and lickers. Moments later, Zhang Ji found the light switch and illuminated the room. The sterile high-tech space lit up, revealing a stunning view through large windows. Beyond the glass was a cityscape bathed in sunlight, the bright blue sky seemingly mocking the horrors that lay ahead. Everyone entered the room, and one of the female mercenaries scanned the area with a detector. The neurotoxin has dissipated. It's safe here now. Zhang Za knew the events to come. The T-virus, a biological weapon developed in the Hive, had been released into the lab's ventilation system when Ryan broke a vial during his theft. The virus had infected the entire facility's staff, turning them into zombies. The Red Queen, detecting the outbreak, had isolated the Hive and released the neurotoxin, leaving the laboratory as a death trap populated by zombies and lickers. Despite the grim reality, the current room felt entirely safe. Zhang Za, the bespectacled girl, and the others couldn't help but gather by the windows, mesmerized by the illusion of sunlight and blue skies. It all looked so real. Matt, the man searching for his sister, broke the silence. This setup is meant to improve the working environment underground. No one wants to stare at cold steel walls all day. Seeing sunlight would make them feel like they were living on the surface. Zhang Za hesitated before extending a hand. "Zhang Jia, I guess I'm one of the security staff here." Matt, restrained by handcuffs from the mercenaries, turned awkwardly and gave a wry smile. "Well, as you can see, I'm a bit tied up right now, so no handshake, and I've forgotten my name too." Zhang Za smiled kindly. He knew Matt was a good man in the movie, one of the most innocent characters, whose only fault was coming to find his sister. Even in the end, Matt had protected Alice, the protagonist, and survived. In Resident Evil 2, he had continued to fight for her. As Zhang Za reflected on this, he felt a surge of hope, knowing the plot and the characters might just give him a fighting chance in this terrifying world.